Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of the Darkride diorama challenge. So there's a lot going on in here, so let's just get right into it. As you can see on the screen, I'm already working on something. So this is going to be a WALLE prop that will be in like the entire attraction. So I use this animatronic, you want to say, prop all over the attraction. So I made one earlier, like really early. It was like a first ever prototype. I didn't like it as much as the one on the left. And so I decided to make a better version onto the right. So the pieces I used were just a lot of different pieces. But I made sure that it was properly the right scale. So the skeleton here is give me that scale. Hopefully the prop's not too big. The unfortunate thing about Parkitect is that I can't get to really small stuff unless I used more mods. But even that sometimes is not small enough. So it depends. But hey, I think I did okay with what was available to me, but I think this WALLE that I'm building right now is way better. So the pieces are from a whole bunch of different mods, mostly from the Sci-Fi Tech, Lively Engineers, shape mods. So that would be called, I think it's called Geotech or something. I think that's what it's called. I don't quite remember. So I use a whole bunch of different pieces, and then I use regular also shapes as well from Parkitect, so it's kind of a mixed bag of pieces. But it worked out pretty well. I think this WALLE is the better WALLE in the long run, because the first WALLE was missing so many details on it, and I made sure that there's like way more details on this WALLE than before. So there's my first WALLE, and there he goes in his first spot in the first room that we built in the last episode. Yeah, I do like this WALLE. This WALLE looks way better, a little bit more together. So on to working on, so the objective of this video, we're working on about 3 rooms. Yeah, 3 rooms are going to be made in this video. So this is a little bit longer video than the last one, so this is about 27 minutes long. And we're just going to work on the rocket takeoff scene. So this is when Eve gets taken up by the rocket after she gets the plant, and then Wally's chasing the ship, and that's where our transition happens, where the room goes black or something, and then the riders go through like a light speed section and then end up in the hangar of the Axiom. So it's kind of a way to transfer us onto the Axiom, because I feel like that's what you need to do versus just, oh no, up here there. But I mean, some Darkrides also just do that too, so it can be different. It depends, but this is how I visioned it as the transition. Right now I'm building the rest of like the outdoor area, or the junked city. So this is going to be a gas station for BNL. So this is BNL gas station, kind of a prop, kind of making it an environment basically with all this stuff. So usually using usually use shapes and letters and other things to kind of get that shape going around. So this is what this was basically what's going on here. I think I use I use windows to help out with this part here. Windows are a really good piece. Like the regular windows from Parkitect are a good piece to kind of use as a flat board. So they're really useful, especially with Freedom 2K. I can rotate them anywhere I want now, so they're quite useful. The mod that you see here I'm using is the tilt camera modify mod. So it's the vanilla camera, but it gives you more degrees of rotation and close up. So that's a really useful mod if you don't want to, I don't know, ruin the effect of the regular camera of Parkitect. This actually works really well, so I like using this mod the most. I usually don't use 3D camera mods, but in this case I wanted to make sure that some pieces were in place. But most of the build was built in regular like camera mode of Parkitect, so I kind of keep it as is. I don't think being in 3D should be a thing, but again, it's your choice. If you want to use the camera mod, you can. It helps, especially on a Darkride challenge like this. Gotta get sightlines right. But I know my sightlines pretty well with the vanilla camera, so it's not hard for me. But for like a beginner, if you don't know your line of sight things, then maybe that can help you out. So we're going to jump ahead to make the rocket. The rocket was actually harder than I thought to make. I had to do 2 different renditions. So I decided to build a rocket out here in the middle of nowhere, just kind of get a idea and the shape of it first, and then went from there. So it's supposed to look like the rocket's taking off with the arm grabbing Eve that has the plant, and then that goes off into space. And basically, we're basically at the. This is not the beginning of the movie. This would be like toward the 20-30 minute mark, I think, is when WALLE has to chase after Eve to the Axiom. I think it's about 30 or 40 minutes into the movie. The movie's about 2 hours long. Again, I don't remember. I should know this, but I watched the movie like 20 plus times, researching this for the Darkride. So it's kind of funny. So this is just me working on that weird looking ship. It's like some type, I would call it's like a it's a explorer ship. It's for all the Eve probes. They go around and go find the plants, blah blah blah, all that good stuff. So here is Eve, and then I get the arm built, kind of going up to her. I think I reposition her. Yep, reposition all this stuff. So this would not be possible without Freedom 2000 to get all these angles that I wanted. And I like the idea that WALLE's like right in front, right there, and trying to catch her while it's happening. The background actually is really cool technique. I'll explain that technique actually more into the videos, like toward the end. But that's a billboard in the back, and what I did was I took and built a fake wall out of pieces, took a picture of it, and then put it up. So I'm still using Parkitect as my pictures, and then going from there. So it's actually a really cool technique. I did that also for like a forced perspective type of thing in the city section of the Darkride. So things like that I think is a really cool idea to use, making little dioramas with shapes and pieces, and then taking a picture and then putting it in game. Kind of a cool way to do it. So right now we're at the section where WALLE is in the Axiom and Eve is being scanned by Gopher to find out that she has a plant on board, and then that whole room turns green. So that was the objective for this scene, was to make the whole room turn green, like in that scene. Right when she gets scanned, the whole room turns green. She gets picked up and sends off to the bridge of the Axiom where the captain is in Otto. So that was the objective of this scene. And I think this scene actually worked out really well. This was the most lighting I've done in a while for a project of this size, so that was kind of fun, and also frustrating at the same time, triggering all of them and figuring out I can overlay lights on top of each other. You'll see that in a second, but I have to first figure out how to scale my room, because the room's quite large, and this whole area back here actually is a lot to play in. But I also want to keep in mind that this is a Darkride and there's a building attached to it, so I'm going to do some cutaway stuff. I want to do some roof cutaways, some wall cutaways. I like doing stuff like that. I think it's more fun to do it in that case. I've done it before in Darkrides and projects like American Adventure has a Darkride that has cutaways. So it's kind of the same philosophy here, but a little bit more cutaways, because you need to see all the scenes. And in this challenge, those are being judged during this month's challenge. Actually, it was last month's challenge. So this has been great. So right now is a B&L symbol that's on the side of the hangar. So when it comes to accuracy, especially in a movie-based ride like mine, because based off WALLE, it was difficult for me to it was difficult for me to do movie accuracies, but also realize that some real life, or not real life, more like scale, would get in the way, and so it's hard to get around that, because I want to be accurate as possible with how the buildings look, or the scenes look, or the rooms, but I know that I have to also fit it in the space given. So that was the most difficult part, especially in this challenge, I think. And I picked such a, iconic movie to kind of base my ride around, instead of, building something from scratch, which I think would be, 100% harder, would be to make up your own story, make up your own characters, rooms, and stuff like that, and go from there. Because that would be way more harder to do, and that takes a little bit more of my time. But this month, I wanted to do WALLE for two reasons. I don't think I explained this in the last video, but two reasons I did this. Oh no, I did explain it. I just remembered. Yeah, because I made a blueprint or a concept art of WALLE when I was a kid. So that was the main reason why I wanted to do WALLE, was that, and I just needed to do it. And I think this was the best way to kind of show off if WALLE was real, a real Darkride. This is possible. You can do it, and it actually works out really well. And it was a good way to exercise in taking a already existing IP or movie. You get to scale it down for a Darkride, because Darkrides are only, I want to give you Darkride's 5 minutes long, maybe 7 at the most. Most Disneyland or Disney Darkrides are only about 3 minutes long, so kind of challenging to kind of cram it in a 1 to 2 hour movie into a ride. So that was kind of a challenge, and I like that. It was actually fun to do. So if I ever wanted to do a Darkride again, I would pick a different movie. Probably Monsters Inc. Honestly, I want to do a Monsters Inc. or something. There should have been a proper door coaster based off of Monsters Inc. But hey, it didn't happen. So that's the only dream, right? That's the dream of it. But getting off track here. So right now I'm working on the lights for the hangar. Or yeah, it's the hangar. I would call it the hangar, or the docking bay. And so I have just overlaid 2 different colored lights, making sure that I can get to see them both, so I can trigger them both. So they got plain white and then green, and then they're supposed to switch out to change the color when the ride vehicles get to a certain point in the room, and the whole room changes green. Like they just found, oh, Eve has a plant. We need to send her up to the bridge to then talk to Otto, and then we're supposed to go back home or something. That's kind of the gist of that. But right now I'm just trying to figure out detailing and things like that. The other annoying thing about doing WALLE as a theme is that their theming and space stuff is very minimalistic, and their walls are super clean, and that bugs me out for some reason. Like I want to put more details in buildings. That's why when I do sci-fi, I feel like you need to put wires hanging on things, or I don't know, pipes, some scarring on concrete walls. But for WALLE, everything is so clean, and I feel like that sometimes just looks so plain and boring. So I try to add some interest to the walls, even though some of the walls in this ride are quite plain. But in a Darkride format, that's okay, because there's some parts of the ride or parts of the room that don't get attention from the rider. They don't have to be that detailed. There's a cool example of this, especially in the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland. So there's a section after you do the Mara face, the Jeep turns to the left, and we go toward the door that Indiana Jones is blocking, and go up to the left. There's this dark part, and there's supposed to be brick on the wall. There's actually no brick on the wall. There's lines suggesting where the bricks would lay, but your brain automatically fills that in, so you imagine that there's bricks on this wall. It's like an optical illusion. But that room is actually just black wall, because I've seen it with the emergency lights on. So I've broken down on that ride a dozen times, actually. But at that section, it's a blank wall. There's no detailing on it whatsoever. There's maybe some vines hanging from the ceiling, but that's it. So I kind of took that philosophy here too, because I didn't have to go super crazy detailed in a lot of places. That saved up a lot of time, a lot of some of my frustration that I had with some of the, I don't know, building aspect of the Darkride. So there's actually a cool little thing to kind of pull from, and I would suggest you try that too, because Darkrides, they're not always fully detailed. There's sections of it that are completely blank. There's another ride that does that too. That would be a Roger Rabbit Cartoon Spin. There's a scene where you actually go into a crate, and it's a complete pitch dark area. It's black walls. There's no point to add detail at all, because you're going through it so fast. Or you go by scenery really fast. You don't have to detail it that much either, so that also helps too. But in this aspect also, what I also have to consider, because you are also the viewer, and looking at the details and stuff like that is an important thing for the viewer. But I left some blank walls on purpose. But that's kind of the philosophy on just doing it like a realistic Darkride. Because I've noticed that a whole bunch of builders were putting so much detail in all their stuff, which is cool. I like detail. I love detail, don't get me wrong. But I felt like that wouldn't be as realistic, would it? It would be realistic to have some walls blank, some walls plain and simple, because again, it is a Darkride. Yeah, there will be walls that will not be decorated. They will probably be in the pitch dark, and I kind of go from there. So it's a cool way to think about it, I think. But hey, so I'm back on track here because I haven't really talked about what's going on. As you can see, that I'm almost done with this docking bay, kind of getting the coloring right with the colors and doing all the timing right. That took a good, I want to say 30-40 minutes to do all this by hand because there's no easier way to do this. So all my controllers, by the way, for all my effects are in one room. There's literally a maintenance building on the side of the map where all my controllers sit, and then just kind of an easy organizing way to do it. I also color coded them and named them depending on the room that needed those sequences and timers and all that stuff. So kind of what I was doing here. I want to explain a little bit of the scene. The scene is when okay, hold off. This scene, let me just retract. This scene is Eve being scanned by a gopher. So there's a gopher prop. I don't know if I can see it from here. He scans Eve, and then the whole room turns green. And then there's two secretary bots, I think they're called. Yeah, they're called secretary bots, I think. No, kiosk bots. They're like kiosks. So all that's being done right now, trying to figure out all the lighting and stuff like that, making sure that everything, does the right trigger. That's basically the gist of this room, but it's almost done. It's quite almost done. I say this is the most room with the most light. I do have an issue with some of the lighting in Parkitect. Walls don't block light, and so lights bleed through walls. And it's kind of difficult to deal with, because honestly, in real life, these lights would not be bleeding through that right wall. They would be blocked, and the room would be kind of contained in itself. So it's kind of weird, but hey, I can only deal with what the game can do. I'm glad that there's lighting in Parkitect. If there was no lighting in Parkitect, I think this Darkride would be not as good, or not as, yeah, it wouldn't be as good. It would just not be as good. It would be just as bad, maybe. Who knows? So we're jumping ahead now to the third scene of this video. This is going to be the scene where Eve is giving the plant to the captain, and then the captain is figuring out what to do next. So this is the scene where this would be after the robot repair bay and the outer space scene with the fire extinguisher. That's the scene this takes place. So again, I skipped a whole bunch of scenes on purpose because I have to condense this movie down a lot. The star field that you see outside is all made by what is it called? Those wall lamps from the light sections and black walls, and I took a picture and then made a poster. That's it. So I wanted to make everything with Parkitect pieces. So that was kind of the gist of it all. Was I'm going to use. I could have easily pulled a star field from the internet, but I wanted to go the extra mile and actually make the star field by hand, and so I did. So it's kind of, you want to say a waste, but I don't think so. I think it's a cool idea to kind of keep everything Parkitect and build everything by hand. So I'm thinking like a real, I want to say a real Darkride designer. I'm using everything I can to make it, and I want to know the process of everything. So that's kind of what I did here. So right now I'm just building in the room. Like I explained before about accuracy, this room is not accurate at all to the movie. Not at all, but it's a good representation of it. And that's when I finally figured out that it's a representation of the movie. It doesn't have to be that exact because there are limitations of real life in the way. So how the track is laid in this building, and how the vehicles move through it, and collision. I had to consider all that and just warp some things, because that's basically what was the hard part about it. So that's what I did. So right now I'm going to build some. So these little circles on the floor are actually where auto can go through the floor and go to the captain's quarters, which is on the second floor below the bridge. So I just wanted to add that little detail. I think that actually helps and sells the point where we are. We're on the Axiom bridge. I mean, the scene before, which I built off screen, is the lobby to the bridge with the big box bot with the little arms that go up and down. It touches that keyboard and goes click, click, click. So I made that bot. So that's kind of the transition scene again. So there's always a good thing to use. Little scenes can be your transition scenes between big scenes. So that was kind of what I was trying to explain there. What other details did I do? So I did some emergency exit detailing all over the place. So there's little doors here and there with an exit sign above it, suggesting, oh, this is the exit in case of emergency. So I kind of want to make it realistic. So right now I'm just skipping around, figuring out the sizes of, we would call it scenes, with some walls, figuring out where another exit would go, if it realistically would be possible, and then figuring out my flooring and all that stuff. Right now we're going to hopefully get to the scene that I like. We're already on the scene where Eve gives the plant, but we're going to get to the point where I use that poster or billboard technique, and you'll see the full inventing of it. And I think this was actually a really cool technique that I use. I use it more than once I use it more than once in 4 scenes. So we're gonna get there in a second, but I'm trying to figure out where all the basically props are gonna sit, Eve and WALLE, but we're gonna skip into it really, really soon. Well, here we go. So this is where I'm gonna build a console for the Axiom. So, because I looked at the movie and the control board is actually very colorful in all its shapes, and there's circles, there's dots, there's squares. So I felt, oh, I can make one myself. Why not? I don't have to pull it from the movie. Don't need to, but I think it would be fun to design my own console and see what I can do from there. So I'm using different shapes. I'm using shapes from Vanilla. I'm using shapes from Lively's shape pack. I'm using shapes from the Sci-Fi pack, and I'm just making these weird dials and things. None of it doesn't have to make sense because it's going to be a small picture on a dashboard in that scene. So kind of was the objective here. But I wanted to experiment and kind of just mess around. So right now I am faced down on the map. So you push M to go into map mode. I'm building directly straight down, filling my entire screen. I'm going to build this console. So we have this red circle thing on the side here. We got this weird oval type of dial thing. Maybe it goes up and down, or it shows a different scaling or something. There's this red square in the center. Don't know what that does, but hey, it's a made-up console. I like these hexagons that we have up on top. Kind of looks spacey. And then there's these little dots from the lights. And there's another circle thing at the bottom. I like this idea of making your own consoles. And I'm probably going to use this technique more and more as I build other things. I can build a brick wall this way and then make it a picture and use that for a Darkride background or something, or an entrance to a ride. Who knows? The possibilities are endless by doing it this way. So this is just me figuring out all the little knobs and things to kind of make it look like a dashboard, kind of like WALLE, because WALLE's dashboards and all the control stuff were very cartoony. So there I took the picture, and then I had to go find it, put it in, and there you go. There's the finished console with other lights also included, and some moving lights to give it some life. And you can see I flipped some of them upside down just to make them different. Most of them are the same, but it does bring more life into the console. I just think this is the best thing to do. So on to making the big fat captain. This was fun and easy because guess what? The captain's fat and he's round, and so he's made of spheres. So I just made a chair out of, I think those are shelf pieces from Resort Tech. Those are the border pieces for the arms of the chair. Didn't really make the chair that detailed because it doesn't need to be. Again, this game doesn't need that much detail, especially when you do a minimalistic type of way, but it still gives you the what was it called? Shoot, I had the word in my head and I lost it. Impression that it's a chair. So kind of the simple way to do it. So there you go. I'm gonna wrap it up here. Let this continue on, but this is part 2, and hopefully I get to finish part 3. So it sounds like I'm gonna get done in part 3 of this whole project. But I want to thank my patrons for the support. Thank you guys for watching. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can. You get early access to videos. You get your names at the end of the video, and maybe some other things. If I get more Patreons, I might do like an actual Parkitect University class live, but we'll see. But I'm gonna leave you guys here, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See you later. Bye.